Blazing Saddles is crazy, rude, and hard to forget. But there's still one scene that no one has seen after 50 years. It was such a big and strange mistake that it almost seemed too good to be true. The real story behind this movie is a lot messier than you think. There are fart jokes, Yiddish, speaking cowboys, awful casting mistakes, and scenes that were cut because they were too shocking to show. What did Mel Brooks hide? Why did someone cut a line before anyone could see it? Also, how did a stranger get into the last shot? Let's find out. Part 1, which sets the scene. Why Blazing Saddles is still important. People didn't know whether to laugh or leave the theater when Blazing Saddles came out in 1974. It broke the fourth wall by making fun of racism and the idea of a cowboy. It finished with a fight on the set of a movie. It was rude, it was loud, and it worked somehow. But why did they make it? How did it make it through the censors? What is the big mistake in Blazing Saddles that no one has seen before? You need to know where America was in 1974 to fully appreciate the chaos and beauty of Blazing Saddles. It was a shame that the Vietnam War was over. Watergate had gone off. Nixon was almost ready to step down. People didn't trust the government very much. Even though the civil rights movement had won some legal wins, racism was still very much a part of American life, especially in movies. In Hollywood westerns, white guys were still seen as heroes and everyone else as background noise. Mel Brooks didn't just want to make fun of westerns, he wanted to destroy them. This story takes place in the Old West, but it's really about America in the 1970s. The story seems easy, but it's not. A greedy land developer wants to get people to leave the town of Rock Ridge, so he persuades the governor to hire a black sheriff. He does this because he thinks that the people of Rock Ridge will fear and run away. But Bart, the new sheriff played by Cleon Little, turns out to be smarter, sharper, and stronger than anyone thought. What starts out as a racist con turns into a weird, genre-bending rebellion, with Bart leading the fight against the bad guys and the narrow-minded town that tried to destroy him. It looks like a silly comedy at first glance, but there's a dangerous idea behind the jokes and sound effects. That racism falls apart in the light of day and laughing. That's what made Blazing Saddles so strong and divisive. People weren't used to hearing the N word in comedies, even when it was used to make fun of racism. They hadn't seen toilet humor in big-budget movies before. They were not used to a black hero being smarter than all the white men in town. Brooks was pushing every line he could think of, plus a few he probably didn't. There were other people who helped Mel Brooks direct the movie. He worked with Richard Pryor, who was the bravest black entertainer of the time. Before, he knew how to write jokes that were really funny. He helped make Bart a figure who was not only smart and cool, but also very aware of how silly things were. Pryor had been considered to play Bart himself at first, but the studio wouldn't insure him because of his past with drugs. That choice might have completely changed the mood of the movie. Cleon Little brought a Broadway shine and a dry sense of humor. Before the script had fire to it, the movie aimed at everyone, racists, lawmakers, cowboys, actors, and studio bosses from the old days. There was no safety. I thought humor had to be subtle, but that was broken. There was no reason for Blazing Saddles to be nice. It meant to hit you in the face, and then make you laugh at how silly the hit was. As long as the audience got the point, it didn't care who it insulted or how low, brow or high, brow it was. This made a movie that could never be made today in the same way. The ending of the movie itself makes a point. This movie doesn't stay in the Old West. Instead, Blazing Saddles breaks through the Warner Brothers studio walls and goes to other sound stages, Hollywood streets, and finally a theater playing the same movie. It's a mess, it's crazy, it is brilliant. The people in the movie figure out that they are in one. The comedy kills itself, and Mel Brooks ends the loop with nothing but chaos. This ending is one of the first self, self-aware ones in American entertainment. It paved the way for movies like Deadpool and Ferris Bueller, but even with everything going crazy, something still got through. It took decades for anyone to notice this very small moment. You can't take it away once you see it. Part 2 is the dirty joke that turned out to be Blazing Saddles' biggest secret mistake. The most shocking part of Blazing Saddles was cut from the movie. It's not a mistake, it's not a joke, and it's not a mistake that happened backstage. Even Mel Brooks, who directed Flatulence, decided he couldn't go through with it because it was so crazy, emotional, and memorable. The real twist comes next. Most people didn't know about this scene until not long ago. It was right there in plain sight, buried in memories and conversations. It was mentioned in passing, but never shown. It's come back to light, and it changes everything you thought you knew about the movie. What did you see? Why did they cut it? Why is it so important? We now see a short, funny scene in the final cut of Blazing Saddles where the beautiful Lily Vanop, played by Meline Kahn, and Sheriff Bart Cleon Little talk in bed. It's a flirtation. It makes you think, but it's not even close to what was shot. Lily and Bart are in her dressing room after having a meal by candlelight, where the cheeky word schneiten, which is a not-so-subtle euphemism, is used. Lily's high-pitched German voice can be heard as the lights go out and the TV goes black. "Oh, is what they say about you people true? How well built are you? Is it real?" There is a pause. The viewers are left with no answers. The funny part then comes. "I'm sorry to let you down, ma'am, but you're sucking on my arm." The movie would have taken a huge risk by hitting on a long-standing stereotype about black men's bodies, turning it into a joke, and then cutting it off with a deadpan line. In that one moment, race, physicality, humor, and hints would have come together in a way that might have been more explosive than anything else in the movie. Still, it never got in. They couldn't go too far with even a movie like Blazing Saddles. In conversations, including one with Conan O'Brien, Mel Brooks has talked about this scene. He said that it seemed like too much, going too far past satire into something he was afraid would dwarf everything else. He decided it wasn't worth the risk because he was trying to walk the fine line between humor and deep thought. So he put it away, but that wasn't the only part that was cut. Another line of dialogue has been found in production notes and memories of the team. Lily Von Stupp is once again putting on her charm and getting ready to woo Bart in this scene. She seems to be telling him to take off his gun belt, but it's clear that she's trying to sound like she's inviting him to do something else with a seductive tone. That line is meant to be funny, but it has a lot of meaning. The third moment was a less clear, but just as tense conversation that never made it past the writing stage. There were early drafts of Blazing Saddles that had Lily's famous wooing of Bart that was more physical. This time, Lily doesn't just question the idea that black guys are good-looking. She also tries to see it for herself. The scene comes very close to actual contact and goes into areas that are still very controversial today. But what makes it funny is how Bart reacted. Cool, uninterested, and in the end rude. What's so interesting is that Brooks has since said he feels bad about cutting some of these scenes. He has said in comments that he might have gone too far with the changes. He wanted the movie to be unique but didn't go all the way. He was afraid that people wouldn't get it, that they would get the joke wrong, or even worse, that someone might say, "Maybe I got scared." So here's the question. What would Blazing Saddles have been like if those scenes had been kept? Would people still praise it as a classic? Would it have been banned, hidden, or forgotten? It doesn't give us a clear answer, but it does teach us something important. It wasn't just shock for shock's sake. These scenes were part of a bigger plan to break down the polite front of Hollywood stories. There was more to Brooks's joke than just making you laugh. He wanted to make you feel bad by showing that racism is more than just a problem. It's also a silly set of beliefs that are kept alive by fear, ignorance, and power. That's when Blazing Saddles turns into more than a comic. It sets a new standard for humorous movies. The humor in that movie was like a surgeon's knife. It cut deep, showed nerves, and dares people to flinch. People talk about how savage the scenes that stayed in are, but the scenes that were cut show how close Brooks was to falling. They show how nearly he went even further. They also show us that the story isn't always what it seems on TV or in movies. That's what almost made it into Section 3. Chaos, farts, and genius by chance. The scene at the campfire where the cowboys eat beans and pass gas can be seen as one of the most famous parts of Blazing Saddles. In 1974, there had never been a big movie with a flatulence gag with full sound, and Mel Brooks didn't just let it happen. After the first cut, he doubled down. He went back and added more fart sounds after the production was done. The people who were in the test groups laughed so hard they couldn't hear the end of the joke. Also, Brooks knew something the company didn't. This wasn't just funny for the bathroom, it was more than that. For many years, Westerns made the cowboy seem cool and beautiful, strong, quiet, brave, and always calm and clean. Brooks wanted to destroy that false idea. He didn't want to show cowboys as mythical figures, but as real men who ate too much and slept in the dirt. People loved how it shattered the nice, polished image that Hollywood had worked so hard to create for decades. Warner Brothers officials, on the other hand, weren't laughing. They said the scene was rude, stupid, and useless. Brooks didn't care about what they thought and kept the scene, which helped change what popular comedy could show and make fun of. Sounds were not the only thing that showed this dedication to chaos. It went all the way to the fight at the end of the movie, which takes place on the Warner Brothers lot, as well as the made-up town of Rock Ridge. The last scene breaks the fourth wall on purpose by being silly. Through fake saloons, the characters fight. They then run into a musical number and end up on a Hollywood street in front of a real theater. It's meant to look and feel crazy and disorganized. Something unexpected did happen, though, even in the noise and chaos. A man in a sweater walks quietly through the middle of the shot as the actors run out of the studio gate and into the street. He's not an extra. He's not dressed up. He's not in the movie. It was just a walk. A person walking down the street who happened to walk into a live set while the cameras were rolling. When the team tried to cut the shot or get rid of him, Mel Brooks told them, "Leave him in." He was right, that's funny. The man's appearance, which is confused, careless, and unaware, makes an already ridiculous scene even stranger. He accidentally became a part of movie history, a mistake that was never fixed. These unplanned scenes turned out to be the best parts of the movie. Brooks's way of making movies was based on the unknown. It was up to him to tell his players to break character and play with timing. There were times when the best parts of the movie weren't even in the writing. It was so easy for Gene Wilder's to play the Waco Kid that he often changed his lines on the spot. Bart seemed smarter than he really was because of Cleon Little's dry tone, facial expressions, and quiet sarcasm. This wasn't planned, but it came out on set. Maylene Kahn, who played Lily Von Stupp, made up a lot of her famous lines, like the breathy, off-key version of "I'm Tired." Brooks didn't just let this mess happen. He wished for it. He thought that freedom, not control, was what made people funny, that making a mistake at the right time could sometimes be funnier than telling a joke. This theory is most clear in the scene with the Native Americans who speak Yiddish. In a flashback to Bart's childhood, a group of warriors on horses circle him and his family. Things look like they are going to start killing, but then the tribal chief, who is played by Mel Brooks, talks. Also, it's not Apache, Sioux, or any other nearby language. This is Yiddish, full words that are spoken smoothly. The other fighters agree and nod. Someone even yells Shabbos. It's shocking, strange, and funny. But what does it mean? Brooks knew exactly what he was doing. He was making a point of showing how Hollywood Westerns have treated Native Americans in the past by having the Native Americans speak a Jewish accent. They were often shown as the other, an enemy from another country, and were rarely given real words or shown to be human. Brooks showed them how shallow and silly those images were by giving them Yiddish. It works because the scene is a surprise, but it stays with you because it's true. The beginning theme of the movie also has that mix of silly and sarcastic themes. Frankie Lane, a famous Western balladeer known for her serious, emotional singing, sings the song Simply Blazing Saddles with all her heart. His voice is full, strong, and honest, and Brooks really wanted that to happen. The team was told not to tell Lane that it was a joke. Lane felt like he was singing the theme to a very important tale. It sounds like every line and note fits in High Noon. The words, on the other hand, are full of over-the-top clichés and images. They tell a whole different story, which leads to pure irony, a performance that never gets the joke, and a song that is so serious that it sounds silly. Mel Brooks knew that making people laugh wasn't always about telling jokes. It was sometimes about making a world that was so crazy that people couldn't help but laugh. It was sometimes about letting mistakes happen and being okay with them. Some toilet humor, racy jokes, and bloopers made it into the final cut. They were all part of the idea that chaos could be powerful. That joke didn't need to be perfect. It only had to be brave. That's what makes Blazing Saddles different from other movies of the same time. There are many scenes in the movie that look like they could go wrong. That's the point, though. The chaos, the improvising, and the choices made in real time that weren't cleaned up in the editing room are what make the show funny. The answer to your question about how a movie with fart jokes, fake horses, and unintentional walk-ons became one of the most praised comedies in movie history is here. It wasn't a mistake. It was planned chaos. Smart enough to work, crazy enough to feel real, and brave enough to completely change the way humor is done. Part 4, Taking on the Studio, Warner Brothers vs. Brooks. Warner Brothers freaked out when they saw the final cut of Blazing Saddles. It was very quiet in the theater. The bosses didn't laugh. They did not clap. One person allegedly said it was too rude for people in the United States to see. Someone else said it was the end of their career. While they were all in that room, Mel Brooks was sure they were all wrong. What happens when a director really wants to make a movie that the studio doesn't want to make? What does it mean when Hollywood's biggest entertainment company tries to hide a movie that ends up becoming a cultural earthquake? Mel Brooks took care of more than just Blazing Saddles. He had it. His deal gave him the power to make the final cut. That meant the studio couldn't change or censor his movie without his approval. As a director, this is a dream for most people. That scared Warner Brothers more than anything else. The movie broke all the rules, which turned it into a nightmare. At the time, Ted Ashley was in charge of Warner Brothers. He made it clear that he wanted the movie to be buried quietly, with care, and without any fuss. Insiders in the business say Ashley told his team to only show the movie in a few big places and then quietly take it off the market. The plan was to see how things would go. No one would notice if it failed. They could blame the director if it caused trouble. For movies the studio didn't believe in, this was a regular move, but Mel Brooks had something else in mind. He had been blocked before in this way. The story of his first movie, The Producers, about a musical called Springtime for Hitler, already pushed people out of their comfort zones. He won an Oscar for Best Original Script for it. But that didn't mean Blazing Saddles would always work. It had more danger, it was more loud. It didn't want to play it safe either. Brooks thought that what he had made wasn't just amusing. People were thinking about the world around them because it was so funny. He told them, this will make people laugh harder than anything they've ever seen. But that belief would be put to the test almost right away, because Blazing Saddles got off to a rough start. For starters, it was impossible to cast Richard Pryor as Sheriff Bart, even though he co-wrote the script with Brooks. He was smart, tough, and funny at the right times, but Warner Brothers wouldn't insure him because Pryor was known to use illegal drugs and had recently been arrested for drug possession. The studio called him a known risk and made it illegal for him to work on set without insurance. Pryor stayed on as a writer, but the part went to Cleon Little, a Broadway actor with no major film credits at the time. That wasn't the only problem with the casting. The Waco Kid role was first given to Gig Young, an experienced actor with an Academy Award to his name. It made sense on paper. Young had the war, outlook, and the dry delivery. Studios didn't notice right away that Young was an alcoholic, and on his first day on set, he passed out while filming the scene where he wakes up in jail. Work stopped and Brooks was furious. He needed a replacement right away, so he called Gene Wilder. Brooks and Wilder had worked together before as producers, and they trusted each other. When Brooks told Wilder about the Waco Kid character, a drunk gunfighter with a good heart, Wilder said yes right away. He flew to the set and started filming the next day. Wilder's performance would become one of the most famous parts of the movie. He brought a sense of calm and weirdness to the chaos around him. Even so, Blazing Saddles didn't look like a winner on paper. John Wayne was offered a cameo in the movie, but he turned it down right away because he thought it was too blue for his image, which in Hollywood speak means too dirty. People who were close to the project said that Wayne told Brooks, "I can't be in it, but I'll be first in line to see it." This reaction made the film seem even more dangerous, and the fact that Brooks had full control didn't help either. Studios like predictability, not improvisation. But when the movie finally came out in February 1974, everyone was shocked. The limited release in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago became a huge hit, and some theaters kept showing it indefinitely. Warner Brothers quickly realized they had misread the situation and rushed to increase distribution. The movie that was supposed to be forgotten became the biggest comedy hit of the year, making over $100 million by the end of its run. All because of one director who was willing to fight the system to make his vision come to life. Next, we'll talk about the cast that changed everything. Richard Pryor was supposed to be the star of Blazing Saddles. He co-wrote the movie, helped shape its best jokes, and was the obvious choice to play Bart, the cool and smart black sheriff who is at the heart of the story. But when it came time to cast the part, the studio stepped in. Warner Brothers wouldn't guarantee the actor because he had a history of using illegal drugs and had recently been arrested for drug possession. This made him too risky to hire from a legal and production point of view. One executive even called him a well-known sniffer. Pryor couldn't be in the movie without insurance, even though it was based on his voice and ideas. This put the production in a tough spot. They needed a lead actor who could handle the satire, keep up with the fast-paced comedy, and be able to handle being in a movie that was taking huge creative risks. That person turned out to be Cleon Little, a trained stage actor with credits on Broadway. Little gave Bart a different kind of energy, one that was cool, polished, and a little detached. His performance is measured, ironic, and full of dry charm. Pryor might have played Bart with more fire, but Little did a good job of doing what he needed to do. That tone of seriousness and humor made the racial satire more sharp. When Bart has to shoot himself to escape a lynch mob, Little doesn't overdo it. He stays calm even though the situation is crazy. That balance was important, and it's part of the reason the movie still works today. However, it didn't get easier from there. Oscar winner Gig Young was first cast as the Waco Kid, a famous gunslinger who has become an alcoholic and hides out in the town jail. The plan seemed to make sense on paper, since the Waco Kid was an alcoholic. But he had a serious drinking problem. During his very first scene, in which he hangs upside down in a jail cell, the crew quickly realized he was going through alcohol withdrawal and filming stopped. Brooks fired him right away and started looking for a replacement. He didn't have to look long because Gene Wilder had already worked with Brooks on The Producers and was known for playing strange, sensitive, and unpredictable characters. Brooks called Wilder in a panic, and he agreed to take the part, flew out the next day, and started filming almost right away. His performance as the Waco Kid, which was equal parts space, doubt, wisdom, and bone, dry sarcasm, became one of the most memorable parts of the movie. Wilder brought a calm, surreal quality to the role that helped ground the chaos around him. His chemistry with Cleon Little was instant and natural, and the two of them created a dynamic that ran through the whole movie. People from outside the world who are trying to figure out what's going on. Harvey Korman played Hedley Lamar, the greasy, greedy bad guy who planned to destroy Rock Ridge. His performance is a mix of Shakespearean villain and sketch comedy. Korman says his lines with so much theatrical flair that they almost become parodies, but never quite do. This control is what made the character work. Korman wasn't just funny, he cared about Lamar like a real person, not a cartoon. This made his lines hit harder. In the movie, it's a running joke that everyone says his name wrong, which is a reference to the real-life actress Hedy Lamarr. The joke was so annoying that the real Lamar threatened to sue Mel Brooks for using her name. Instead of going to court, Brooks settled out of court. He later joked that she should have been flattered because not many bad guys are named after Hollywood royalty. Then there was Alex Karras as the unstoppable brute, who kicks a horse and rides into town on a bull in one of the strangest scenes in the movie. Game of Life's only pawn. Karras wasn't an actor by trade. He was a defensive tackle in the NFL for 12 years with the Detroit Lions and was named to the All-Decade team for the 1960s. Brooks cast him because he needed someone who looked intimidating but could also be funny. Karras did a great job. His deadpan delivery turned into more than just a bad guy. He became a strange, lovable force of nature that added to the rough rhythm of the movie. Each of these actors brought something important to Blazing Saddles, and Brooks trusted them to improvise, take risks, and shape the movie as they went along. So they were able to handle the chaos of the production and even thrive on it. They found humor in the silly things that happened and gave their all to parts that could have gone badly. They also knew that the movie wasn't just making fun of them, it was making a point that required skill, timing, and a willingness to push the limits. These actors weren't just going through the motions. They were working with a director who told them to go all in. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click the next video for more fun stuff.